Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be doing a guide for the nation of Tunis in EU4 1.35. But before this video begins, don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, as it helps out tremendously, and that's the best free way to help the channel grow. So definitely leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Now let's jump into Tunis. Tunis is a nation located in northern Africa. Oftentimes you've probably noticed them and have found them to be very annoying, as the Tunisians and most of the North African Maghrebi nations actually possess the unique ability here which allows them to raid. So as you can see, you can use your ships and send them around, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. You can send them around and they can raid all of the Christian nations. So I'm sure if you've been playing in Italy or in Spain or in France, you have probably noticed the Tunisians as well as the Moroccans, how you'll get that notification that the vile pirates have raided you. Well, that's going to be us this time around. And if you follow this guide, I'm going to show you how you're able to extract hundreds and hundreds of ducats from the Christian nations that surround you, but also how to take Tunis from being a very small and poor, insignificant nation in North Africa to ruling all of North Africa, Iberia, and even into Italy. But before we do all that, we need to set up our estates. So for the Ulema, you want to give out religious state, religious diplomats, oversight by the Ulema, and grant residence to local scholar. And when this pops up, definitely make sure that you choose the Hanbali scholar. These ones are really not that good, and ultimately the aggressive expansion impact is going to go a lot further than any of these military ideas. For the emirs, we want to give out primacy of the emirs, increase levies, and expand fortifications. Later, once we sab up to Sab 1, we'll go ahead and give out aristocratic counselors. For the merchant guilds, you want to give out land of commerce, private trade fleets, patronage of the arts, and indebted to the merchant guild. And for the dhimmi, just give out promote dhimmi education. Then go and summon the diet, choose whichever agenda you can most easily complete. I'm going to choose this one right here, and don't forget to seize land. For your starting allies as Tunis, I recommend first allying Morocco, and then after you ally Morocco, send a diplomat to start improving with the Ottomans. We eventually want to ally the Ottomans, and allying the Ottomans as Tunis is really not too hard. So send one diplomat to improve Morocco and send the other to the Ottomans. For your rivals, you really can just pick who has rivaled you, so I'm going to go ahead and rival Tlemcen, Portugal, and Aragon. And don't forget to take these decisions atop the title of Khalifa and denouncement of sect practices. As Tunis at the very beginning, we really are not making enough money to afford all three types of advisors, so just choose one or two. So I'm going to choose an admin advisor. Ideally, you'd want a stab cost or tax guy. I have a stab cost guy, so I'm going to go ahead and take him. And you'd also want to choose a mill advisor. Ideally, you'd want a discipline or a fort defense guy. I have a fort defense, but he's level 2, so I'm going to take this discipline advisor. And the next thing you want to do, basically day 1, is disinherit your heir. He's absolutely terrible, a 201, that's absolutely terrible. So make sure you disinherit him. Don't worry about the prestige, we'll get that back pretty quickly, and don't worry about losing an heir, as since we're Sunni, we're guaranteed an heir within the next couple of years. After you set up your allies, the next thing you want to do is go ahead and look at your mission tree. As Tunis, we really don't have that big of a mission tree, however, it is filled with quite a bit of flavor, which involves us allying the Ottomans, as well as it revolves around us having a very big fleet. So as you can see here, we need to build at least 5 light ships, which will give us claims on basically a ton of provinces, basically almost all of North Africa and parts of southern Italy. So use those loans that you took out and just construct the light ships. There we go. Now we're going to have 5 once those are finished building. And while your ships are building to jumpstart your mission tree, go ahead and use your ships to raid. The way you do this is you just pull them out of port and you go in the same sea tile as a Christian nation. So as you can see, we are in the same sea tile as Aragon. So you can raid the coast. It gives you tons of sailors and a ton of money. It's honestly the easiest way for these Maghrebi nations to acquire money. So make sure whenever you have the opportunity to do this that you always take advantage of it, as this is one of the easiest ways for you to maintain and get so much money as pretty much any of these nations, Morocco, Tunis, Tlemcen. And once you have enough ships, you can go ahead and complete this mission called Construct a Corsair Fleet. As you can see, it's going to give us claims on all of Tlemcen, Sicily, and Sardinia. And now, after improving with the Ottomans for a few months, you can go ahead and ally them. Just make sure that you try to royal marry them as quickly as possible, as sometimes their Diplo slots can start to fill up, especially when they start allying random people over here. But as long as you're paying attention, that shouldn't be a problem. And once you ally the Ottomans, you can go ahead and complete this mission called Ottoman Diplomacy. It'll give us claims on the Mamluks, which is an area we will be expanding to later in the game. After completing your mission tree, it is time to get ready to fight your first war. If you followed this guide so far, you would have allied Morocco. Now, one of the reasons why you want to ally Morocco is, of course, that they make a good ally, but also because if you do not ally Morocco, then oftentimes Morocco will ally the other nations around here. I've seen Morocco ally Tlemcen, Mazab, Toghert, all these other people around here, and you don't want that, as these are the places where you are going to expand. Tlemcen is going to be your first war. So make sure that you ally Morocco, as that is extremely important for your expansion route. So we're going to go ahead and attack Tlemcen. They usually aren't allied to anyone big, especially if you allied Morocco already. So just go ahead and attack them. If they're allied to someone down here, you really don't need to co-belligerate them. You can if you want, but we're going to be full annexing whoever's down here. And with Tlemcen, we're going to be trying to take as much as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and attack Tlemcen for this province right here. And for your peace deal with Tunis, what you want to go ahead and take is, ideally you want to take the coastal part as much as possible, as we want to kind of try and cut off Morocco and sneak our way there. Unfortunately, what happened in my war, and will likely happen in your war as well, is Morocco will actually join in on attacking the Tlemcenes, and I wasn't able to get most of their provinces in time. So depending on how much is there, just try to take as much as possible. If they were allied to Jared, like they were in my game, you probably should have co-belligerated Jared, which I did. So just go ahead and fully annex Tlemcen, in my case, and fully annex Jared. Even if you didn't co-belligerate Jared, just fully annex them. These nations have literally, like, this guy has, what, like 6 dev? So it doesn't really matter. So yeah, just go ahead and fully annex both these nations, take all of their money. After you finish up your first war against Tlemcen, or ideally while you're fighting your first war against Tlemcen, you want to start building spy networks on Mazan and Toghert. We do actually start out guaranteeing Fezzan, and the reason we start out guaranteeing Fezzan, the reason you don't want to revoke the guarantee, is oftentimes the Mamelukes will attack them. In my game, they're actually allied to each other. I guess Fezzan realizes that I'm probably going to try to attack them. But Fezzan is allied to Toghert anyway, so I'm just going to full annex them. But right now, what I'm going to go ahead and do, and what you should have probably already done in your game, is start sending spies to spy on Mazab and Toghert so we can get a claim and attack them. And once your spy networks have finished being built, go ahead and fabricate a claim, just like I did. I fabricated claims on Mazab and Toghert, and go ahead and attack whoever you want. They're usually not allied to anyone big. As you can see, Toghert is only allied to Fezzan. Now, we want to annex Fezzan anyway. Unfortunately, Fezzan is allied to the Mamluks, but their provinces are all 3 dev provinces, so you can just go ahead and fully annex them without co-belligerating them. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. Attack Toghert for this province. Don't co-belligerate Fezzan, as that would call in the Mamluks, but we're still going to fully annex them. And so for your peace deal with both of these nations, you're just going to fully annex them. Again, fully annex Fezzan, as even if they aren't co-belligerated, all of these provinces are just 3 dev provinces, so it doesn't really matter. You will be spending a little bit of Diplo, however, it is worth it. So, fully annex Fezzan, and then fully annex Toghert, taking all of their money. And now it's time to declare our final war on some of these little North African miners. Declare on Mazab for full annexation. You want to be attacking these little nations as soon as possible. Basically, you want to be attacking them right after Tlemcen, before they can get some weird allies. Sometimes, especially if the AI tries to stop you, Mamelukes or Morocco or someone else around here will ally or guarantee them, so make sure that you attack them and fully annex them as soon as possible. And for the peace deal, just follow the same pattern, like I said, for all the different North African miners. Full annexation and take all of their money. After you fully annex all those little North African miners, you can go ahead and complete this mission called Pacify the Berbers. And by this point in the game, the Renaissance should have spawned. In fact, the Renaissance spawned about 6 years ago. It spawned in Saluzzo, of all places, lucky for them. However, what you need to do is spawn the Renaissance. You unfortunately don't get it naturally, so what you need to go ahead and do is spawn it in. Go ahead and see which province is the cheapest to dev. In my case, it's the capital, and it almost certainly will be the capital. So go ahead and put on the Encourage Development Edict here in Tunis. And what you want to go ahead and do is dev it once, and then do Expand Infrastructure. The reason we want to do that is it gives all of these great modifiers, but most importantly, it gives minus 15% local dev costs, which will make deving the Renaissance a whole lot cheaper. So go ahead and do that, put in all of these powers. Of course, you want to only do this once you have Tech 4 in all categories. So make sure that you have Tech 4 in all categories before you dev the Renaissance. If you do, pour in all of your points, and you should be able to embrace the Renaissance in no time. For your Tier 2 government reform as Tunis, make sure you take Strength and Noble Privileges. We are going to desperately need manpower as Tunis, as these provinces here are such low dev. Because of that, we will be taking an insane amount of attrition. It's actually kind of ridiculous how much attrition you take in North Africa. So in order to help with that, make sure for your Tier 2 government reform that you take Strength and Noble Privileges. Make sure that as your game progresses, that you don't forget about the raiding. The raiding of the coast is pretty much going to be the only thing that can keep your economy afloat, as these provinces really are not the greatest. In order to make sure that we don't lose an insane amount of money, we need to be raiding. So make sure that throughout your game that you don't forget to raid, as that will be your greatest source of income as Tunis. And once you have enough money, you can go ahead and embrace the Renaissance. If you really want to, you can wait for the Renaissance to spread to more provinces. But honestly, you're going to be getting so much money from raiding. I just got all of this money from raiding all of these coasts, that you should be able to embrace it for really not a lot of money. Also, keep in mind that if you embrace it early enough, you might be able to sell it to someone else, such as the Ottomans or the Mamluks. So embrace the Renaissance as soon as possible. And just like I said, if you embrace the Renaissance early enough, you will be able to sell it to the Ottomans. Look at that, 3.41 ducats per month from the Ottomans just for selling the Renaissance. Very nice. Speaking of ducats, the next thing you want to do to continue down your mission tree is complete this mission called Traverse the Sahara. We want to own a province and a core of Fezzan, which we already have, but what you need to do is go to Tripoli and build a marketplace, which we were going to do anyway, as Tripoli is an excellent trade province. In fact, what you want to be doing is building marketplaces in all of your centers of trade, so that includes Tripoli, this province right here, and of course our capital province in our home trade node. And once the marketplace in Tripoli is done, you can complete this mission called Traverse the Sahara. It's actually really cool. So this mission basically gives you these provinces down here for free, as you just saw them generate. Not only does it do that, but it also connects you and allows you to discover the provinces over here owned by these African nations such as Air, Katsina, and all these other ones here. And on top of all of that, it gives you claims on all of the provinces down here. So in my game, it's owned by Air. Sometimes it'll be owned by Air. Sometimes Air will get completely destroyed by these other nations here. But this mission is really cool, as it allows you to expand further into sub-Saharan Africa. So after you finish coring all of those provinces that you took from these little Maghrebi nations, and after you completed this mission called Traverse the Sahara, you can go ahead and get ready to declare your next war. Now, ideally, you would have wanted to have taken these provinces here in the north from Tlemcen, because keep in mind, we do need them for this mission. However, I was not able to do that, as Morocco beat me to attacking Tlemcen. If you're like me, which you probably will be, you will need to fight Morocco. Luckily for me, Morocco actually broke their alliance with me like 5 years ago. It's because they wanted these provinces that I own, as you can see. So I'm able to attack them. The alliance network is usually a little bit strong with Morocco, just because they start out with a lot of troops. So if you need to, don't feel bad if you have to just merc up. I'm going to go ahead and hire one of these mercenary companies, and then I'm going to get ready to attack Morocco. And now it's time to declare your war against Morocco. Sometimes Morocco will actually get completely destroyed by their vassals. In my game, that didn't happen. Morocco was actually able to rein in their vassals, which is unfortunate. However, no problem. Just merc up and go ahead and attack Morocco. I'm going to attack them for the conquest of this province. For your peace deal with Morocco, I recommend, of course, taking everything that you have claims on, which is these provinces right here. So take these provinces. And I also recommend taking these provinces here, especially the province of Tafilaut. Now, the reason you want to do that is because Tafilaut is a gold mine, and we really want that gold mine, as Tunis, honestly, really the only way you can make money is through raiding. and we won't be able to raid forever, so it's important that we start building up our economic base on things that are not raiding, such as gold. So make sure that you take what you have claims on, and assuming Morocco still owns these provinces, take these provinces down here with the gold mine, take all of the money, and take war reps. And once you take these provinces right here, you can go ahead and complete this mission called Control the Barbary Coast. It gives you some sailors and some privateer efficiency. For your first idea group as Tunis, I recommend going quality ideas, as tempting as it might be to take maybe naval ideas or something like that, since we have a very navy-focused nation. Make sure that you take quality ideas. Having that improved army as well as that improved navy is going to do wonders for us, especially as eventually we are going to have to fight the Castilians and the Italians, and potentially the Mamelukes, and maybe even the Ottomans are an ally. So, for your first idea group as Tunis, make sure you take quality ideas. And now it is time to declare your first war against these sub-Saharan African nations. You of course should have gotten claims on them from your mission tree, and it's time to declare your first war against them. Typically you're going to be attacking air. Sometimes air in the early game will get absolutely destroyed. However, most of the time they should still be intact, especially if you're down here this early. So go ahead and declare on whoever is here. I'm going to attack air. Don't worry too much about their numbers, as their tech is super low. As you can see, these guys are still tech 3. They don't even have feudalism or the Renaissance, so don't worry about it, and go ahead and attack them. Oh, and I didn't start this war against the Genoese, the Ottomans just called me in. For your first Splendor ability as Tunis, I recommend taking Adaptive Combat Terrain. You are going to be fighting in a lot of drylands across North Africa and into Egypt, so having that extra leg up in combat is going to be very handy. For your peace deal with air, what you want to go ahead and do is just fully annex them. Remember, we have claims on all of their provinces. You can make them turn some cores if you want, and take all of their money. And once you do that, you will, number one, have an awesome name placement, and number two, you'll be able to complete this mission called Airstrike, which will give you plus 10% movement speed, which is very needed, and will give you permanent claims on places into Africa, as you can see right here. For your Tier 3 government reform as Tunis, I recommend taking Expanded Royal Court. How the alliance networks are looking in your game will depend on where you do your next war. Now, originally I wanted to attack the Mamluks, however the Ottomans actually called me into a war against them. We just finished that up. I got nothing, unfortunately. Sometimes the Ottomans might give you something if they call you in against the Mamluks. That war that the Ottomans declare against the Mamluks can be quite difficult, as the Mamluks will focus all of their attention on you since you are the weaker party in the war. However, as long as you maneuver and you help out the Ottomans, you should be able to win. Like I was, the Ottomans just didn't give me anything, unfortunately. So instead, I'm looking at other places that I can attack, such as Aragon. However, with Aragon, they already are quite powerful, and ideally you'd want to have the Ottomans help you out, as most of the time they will help you out in wars like this against the Europeans. However, the Ottomans continue to spiral into debt, so they won't help me right now. The next case scenario would be Morocco. However, I don't have those claims, since you need to complete this mission here called Sponsor Piracy first, which either makes you getting trade power in the Genoese trade node, or makes you actually annex these provinces outright. And so for your second idea group as Tunis, what you want to go ahead and take is typically a Diplo idea. Don't take maritime ideas, as tempting as it might be seeing all those amazing naval ideas for the Maghrebi nations. Instead, I'd recommend taking trade ideas. The reason I'd recommend taking trade ideas is most of our economy is going to be based around trade as Tunis. These provinces really are not that great, so you're not going to be getting too much production income from them. Instead, you're going to be relying mostly on trade income. So for your second idea group as Tunis, I recommend taking trade ideas. For your second Splendor ability as the Ottoman For your second Splendor ability as Tunis, if you did not take Adaptive Combat Terrain for your first one, then I recommend taking it for the second one. However, if you did take Adaptive Combat Terrain like me for your first Splendor ability, then I recommend taking Justified Wars for your second ability. And by this point in the game, your nation should look a little bit something like this. We started out as Tunis being small and insignificant, surrounded by a bunch of nations that wanted to destroy us, And now we're absolutely massive. We're able to take on pretty much anyone. We're able to take on the Mamluks. We're able to take on Aragon. We're able to take on the Castilians. We're able to take on the Italians. We can pretty much take on whoever we want. As you continue on with your game, of course, you're going to finish up annexing Morocco, clean up all of these areas, and as Tunis, you're going to hold pretty much all of North Africa. You're also going to go ahead and attack the Mamluks. I would have showed you that war that I went in with the Ottomans, but honestly, I wasn't expecting them to declare it right then and there. However, if that war does happen to you, just make sure that you keep a level head, keep your troops organized, and don't let the Mamluks overwhelm you, and wait for the Ottomans to come through and assist you. You will also be expanding further into sub-Saharan Africa if you want. You don't have to expand to these lands. Many of these lands are really not the best. They have some okay trade goods, but it's really not that necessary. It just depends what you want to do. Follow along your mission tree. The Tunisian mission tree is not very big, however, it is pretty much completely custom and has all of these really nice little unique modifiers, such as this one where you can get a university, this where you have to conquer Alexandria, and so on. For our first two idea groups, we took trade and quality ideas. Another reason why you want to take these two ideas together is for that bottom policy there called the Cloth Quality Edict, which gives you plus 15% trade efficiency. Very powerful. As Tunis, a majority of your income is going to be coming from trade, as the provinces that we possess are pretty terrible, most of them being 3 dev provinces with cows. So not very good for production or even tax income. However, trade income is really where we're going to thrive as Tunis. This is what we took for our first 3 government reforms. For your tier 4 government reform, I recommend taking curtail clerical privileges. For tier 5, I recommend taking organized military staff, especially for that reinforced speed and that national supply limit modifier. The provinces here in North Africa are absolutely abysmal for supply limit, so having this extra supply limit modifier and the reinforced cost will make it so that your armies are not only cheaper, but that they use less manpower. For tier 6, I recommend general states. For tier 7, I recommend taking meritocratic recruitment. For tier 8, I recommend taking embrace free trade. For tier 9, I recommend taking either this one or this one, depending on how many heathen provinces you're going to be conquering. For tier 10, I recommend taking divine rights, or if you need the government capacity, then l'état c'est moi. And for tier 11, I recommend taking right to petition. As you continue on with your idea groups, for your third idea group, it's honestly depending on what kind of points that you have saved up. However, ideally for your third idea group, you want to take something, either economic ideas, or if you don't have any admin ideas saved up, then you can take another mill idea, maybe offensive or quantity. For your fourth idea group, again, it really depends what points that you have. If for your third idea group you took a mill idea, then for your fourth idea group, take an admin idea, or vice versa. For your third idea group, if you took an anime idea, then for your fourth idea group, take a military idea. For your fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth idea groups, it really is ultimately up to you, so you can tailor your game how it is going. This has been a guide for the nation of Tunis in EU4 1.35. Let me know what other nation I should do a guide on in the comments below, and let me know, is Tunis one of your favorite North African nations, or do you prefer a nation such as Morocco or Tafilat or Sus if you prefer being sus? Don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, as it helps out tremendously, and thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.